Hello, everybody, and welcome back to tracking our local shifting real estate market here in southern New Jersey, Burlington, Camden, Gloucester counties, 900,000 and below. Got that thing down to a science at this point. And today we had actually a pretty surprising little week here as I'm looking at the first week of November. Last week, if you want to scroll back to our previous video you can find on the YouTube channel, we introduced interest rates to the conversation, and we had a really nice talk about these kind of three graphs that you're seeing over here to the right. I talked about them last week, so go check out that video. I'm not going to go through them all today, but I got to take a look at all those averages. I may pull them out just to talk about what we're talking about today, but let's go down our list of stats because we kind of sometimes have glossed through these. I mean, it's the point of it, but sometimes we gloss through them because there's nothing really overly dramatic or anything crazy happening. But this week, we set two highest records, and then we had two others that were second highest all year. Now, again, we have been doing this for 45 weeks. The fact that we are still setting records in any of these categories is surprising. So let's take a look at the first one that I think is probably the statistic that since we have started tracking this has been the thing we've been looking for the whole time. 1,571 active listings. Total active listings right now. Again, those three counties, 900,000 and below. The reason why that's important is because you have been talking to all your friends and you have been chatting with your family, and you have maybe been not entering the real estate market because you've said the words or they've said the words, it's too competitive. You have to give up too much in order to make this work and in order to move forward. It's just not as true anymore. It's just not. We just went through, and of course I'm going to bring the graph out. Come on. Of course I'm going to bring the graph out. Average total active listings per month. Okay, we started in January very high. And again, the beginning of this year was that big inflationary period. Then the Fed started rolling out the interest rates, really started cutting back on stuff. And it had its desired effect, at least in our area, on total active listings. And that's, we've actually rebounded our listings. We have the second highest. The only other week, again, was there all the way back in January. There's like 1 week where we had, I think it was like 1574. It's 1571 right now. So we were basically tied for that top spot. And the reason we want that is because we don't want you to have that conversation anymore that it's been too competitive. There's no homes to choose from. You're picking from scraps, right? That's just not true anymore. Our new, pending, and closed were okay. Our new was at 318, and then our pending was at 258 and closed at 284. So in terms of our ratio, it's not golden because I would like to see the pending slightly higher than closed. But the two that actually help us the most are we had more come onto the market at 318 than we did come off the market at 284. So that's nice. That's what's starting to continue to bolster these active listings. Now, we did see the expireds, withdrawns, and canceled are higher than they have been in a couple of the other weeks. It was also the turnover of the month. We almost always see a little uptick in expired, withdrawn, and canceled at the end of the month. The reason being, just as you would think, it's the end of the month. People just have some symmetry of dates. So you're going to, I actually had run that at one point. It might be a good one to bring up in a future video, but it was like every January 1st, February 1st, March 1st, April 1st, you kept seeing this little spike in expired, withdrawn, and cancel. So that's not all that uncommon. But let's talk about the big one. Let's talk about the elephant in the room here. Price reduction. So I'm going to bring myself all the way back to week 1. So there were a couple that were fairly high here in the beginning of the year, and we knew that because things were going crazy, inflation. But then it really started picking up April, May. I'm not expecting you to actually follow along here. I just wanted to give you that early reference point. So then we come all the way here. So we're all the way back out here, and but look at these last handful of weeks. We had 179, 146, 183, 186, and 186 is our highest. So we have been setting some records in there the whole time. I had a gentleman today, a past client of mine, somebody that I'm going to be helping listing their property, one of their investment properties. And he asked me, he said, hey, I know we had run comps a little bit ago, but I'm nervous. I'm watching your videos and I'm seeing that we have all these price reductions. Do you think we should still price it there? And I said, yes, because the same reasoning of why I had given that pricing recommendation 3 weeks ago is the same as why I would give it today. The way that I'm operating our listings at the moment, at least my personal listings, and I've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, 5 that are active with one that just sold, 5 that are active, and another one coming up next week. And all of these listings we were able to get under contract within about 2 weeks. All of them had multiple bids, okay? And all of them got under contract basically either at or over asking price with cash, no inspection offers. And the way we do that is by not pricing according to the curve. A lot of agents are still pricing up here. Now I'm bringing up my median list price curve. A lot of these agents saw this March, April, May, June and basically stopped checking their econ, and they're still pricing these things like that had continued up. But as we've been watching, we know that it hasn't been going up. So why would you continue to price up here when things are selling here? So we've been positioning all of our listings basically at market value or even just slightly below, because I don't want I don't want buyers to offer logically when they're the only game in town and they can use car salesmen their way into negotiations. I want to pit a few buyers against each other, make them emotional about the decision, and tell them, you say, you know what, I want this house. I'm just going to go up and buy it. I'm going to go 20K over ask. I'm going to waive my inspections. I work for that seller. That's why I'm positioning it, because I want that good. So for the right strategy, it's still find time to sell. You can still expect that type of marketability. You can still expect that type of action and traction through your listing. Could it be slightly less if you have what I would consider a subpar listing? Now, a subpar listing, let's call a spade a spade. Not all homes are created equal. Not all homes even on the same street are created equal. There are some homes who the homeowners have spent time and years of effort, equity, and money to improve their property, to do things like French drains in the basement, to do structural resupporting, to do new roofs, to do the unsexy plumbing jobs, and to add new HVAC, which doesn't add any curb appeal to your home, but it's important. The people who have been doing those are the ones we're seeing succeed at the moment. If you have been neglecting your home for many years, you are going to sell it at a lower price, and you're probably going to have to sell it as is, and you're probably not going to get the bids that you want. Okay, so there's still a stratification based on the quality of your listing. As we go down, again, days on market, we haven't had much change in that. It takes a lot for those to change over a longer period of time because it's taking an average of 1,500. So I'm not overly surprised about that. Not surprisingly, our volume is the highest. Now, here's would be the question. We're at the second highest, so why isn't the volume at the highest? Well, let me bring my graph back again. So sorry, I thought we were done with this one. Why would you think that we're at a different volume? Well, volume is simply the amount of listings on the market multiplied by their individual list prices. Our median list price in January, when we had our previous highest, our current highest for this year, the median price point was $312,000. Well, we have gone up $28,000 in median list price and the same amount of units. Yeah, it's no wonder that the total volume is going to be higher, even though we're at just slightly below what that other one would be. So that doesn't make all that much, or doesn't surprise me all that much. It does make a lot of sense. Now, we had been hanging real steady with our median list price for a while. I mean, we were at 340, 339, 339. I don't want to keep saying this, but you get the point. It goes back to, wow, now we had two in here at 344 and 349, but even right before that, same thing, 339 for another handful of weeks. So it had been fairly steady, and we saw that again in our median list price graph. And for the third time, let's bring it around, but you see it was fairly steady across. But we did have a jump up this point. I think it had kind of been building. It had kind of been building, but still hovering. Some stuff was coming off. But now we finally kind of jumped up to this 345 median list price. Do I think it'll stay? I don't know. My only thinking of why this is not going to stay up here, or excuse me, that it will stay up there and potentially even go up, is that we actually had an interest rate dip this past week. It was one of the first weeks we had actually had a dip since we had gone on this rise of any significant note. I mean, there's always little tiny ones, but of any significant note. So my question would be, would I expect to see this median list price continue at 345 going forward, or would I expect to see a return to maybe this 340 mark? We'll see, but again, we're going into election time. There's a lot of things that are going to be going on in the financial sector to kind of make the current administration look good. So I could see there being a downward pressure on interest rates for the next handful of months. Yesterday, Tuesday was election day. So yeah, so I don't know. This is going to be an interesting one to see because there's so many competing factors on what's going to happen with this. The other thing we have to remember is that we're going into a slower part of the year traditionally for buyers. So if you back that buyer pool off a lot, but we're still at a lot of active listings, even with the interest rates, we may see that price come back down just because we may see the demand slightly dissipate between now and maybe, after the Super Bowl September type time. Okay. So all that's good. I mean, I think this is all what we were looking for. We wanted more listings on the market. We get it. We wanted some of the overpriced listings to start reducing their prices. We're getting that, but we are still here at a slightly higher price point. So let me just talk about one thing, and I'm actually just going to bring myself to full screen here. Actually, that's terrifying. Let's not do full screen. The question that I want to answer today is, Connor, I've been watching all these stats and they've been helpful, or no, it's not been helpful. I just am still thinking about when do I get started, right? There's two things you look at. One is the macroeconomics of what's going on in your market, and that's what we've been tackling here. But what we don't really tackle in this, and this is why I open the door for what I would call my buyer strategy session, is when do I begin my stuff? When should I contact a lender? How much money should I have in my bank account? What should I be doing with my credit? Or do I even have credit? So here's what I want to do. Let's just do a small exercise, and then that'll be it for today's video. I think the stats spoke for themselves today. But this is the question that I think is the most helpful for everybody right now. Let's make a scenario here. And I'm going to make the scenario that next September 1st, okay? Right before the school year begins, maybe somebody goes to school on September 7th or September 15th, generally a little earlier at this point. But let's just make for easy conversation that you want to be in your home on September 1st. Okay. That means that we're going to want to settle on, August 30th, 31st, September 1st, right? So we're going to settle that day. We're actually going to go to the title company, sign your documents, take possession of the keys, and go back to the house. How long are you going to be under? It's always work backwards. And that's what this whole exercise is. Let's work backwards to when you begin. Let's say that you're going to be under contract. Well, how long? Well, you could do an under contract as short as 20 to 25 days if you have a mortgage. You could do a week if you're cash, right? If you're cash, you could be under contract for a week, but you could be under contract for a week. That's not saying that the seller could do a week, right? There are some sellers that have a second home that they're already in. But there's a lot of sellers that have to sell this home and then they have to line up the purchase of their next home, right? So let's not get it twisted with that. So I always recommend to give yourself a window of about 45 days of being under contract, right? You can extend it a little bit longer if you need to, maybe 60 days. But for the point of this, so September 1st, I want to be closed. Given my 45-day under contract window to be conservative, that means I'm going to want to get under contract July 15th, right? If I get under contract July, I go the rest of July, 30 days in August, and then I close. So, okay, so July 15th is when I want to be under contract. Now, we talk about days on market, right? This days on market, this average DOM and medium DOM, days on market. How many days has the home been listed for? You heard I said the word listed. Buyers also have a days on market too. Now, in a seller's market, it might be starting to shift, but I wouldn't say it's shifted. In a seller's market, the listings don't stay on market long, but the buyers do. And in a buyer's market, a buyer doesn't stay on market long, but the listings do. So where we sit at the moment is my buyers have an average of about 30 to 60 days on market, right? If we're dialed in with their search, they're pre-approved. We know their budget. We've gone through our buyer strategy session, so we know what they're looking for. We've have the MLS search actually set up, and we've begun virtual tours and in-person showings, right? If all that is being done, then we would have about 30 to 60 days to be on market as a buyer. And that means you're actively searching and probably actively offering on homes. Now, unless you are a non-contingent, 50% down conventional, right? You're willing to waive every inspection. You're probably going to submit 2, 3, maybe 4 offers. It's just the probability of what's going to happen. Yes, I have tons of buyers that get lucky on their first. I have some buyers that get lucky on their fourth. It's just you have to play the numbers game at a certain point. So, all right, July 15th, and then I want you, and I would say go on the high side of 60 days because now we're talking about a spring period where it might be a little bit busy. So July 15th, let's back that up 60 days. June 15th, May 15th. Okay, so May 15th is when I want to be actively starting my search with the intent to offer if I find something I like. Okay. When should I get pre-approved? Well, your pre-approval is good for 60 days. So if you're going to be starting then, I would say we would probably want to get your pre-approval at that point for that period. So again, same thing, May 15th. Now, is that the only time you should get pre-approved is right when you are just about ready? I would argue absolutely not. And now this is where I start to put the little bit of this backing up more than I think the average person would consider. All right, and let's kind of talk about this, and then we'll end the video there. The average person would go off of what we just talked about. And you know what's happening to the average person in this market? They're not winning. You need to be more than average. You need to be exceptional, and you need to be strategized to the tilt. So May 15th would be when the average person would get pre-approved. However, you may want to improve your odds of success. And you may recognize that, hey, I might be in a good financial standing as a general person, and that sometimes equates to being in good financial standing in terms of the eyes of a mortgage company, and sometimes it's not. You may be someone that says, I've saved every single penny that I've ever had for a while, and I have $250,000 in my bank account. That's great. But if you have a lot of revolving debt and it's almost matching your income, and you have a very high debt to income ratio, just because you are highly leveraged, that might not be good. You may have like a Credit Karma, or you may have been looking at just some basic credit reports. But when we actually get into it, some of that credit support company that you've been using, they've just put holds on certain credit accounts that's artificially bolstered your score. So when the mortgage company looks at it, they have to remove all those holds. They're like, yeah, you don't have a 680, you have a 590. Okay, well, I didn't know that. So what I would say is this: May 15th is when the average person would get pre-approved. I would get pre-approved 3 to 4 months ahead of time. When you run a pre-approval, do they run your credit? Yes. Are there lenders who do soft credit pulls? Also, yes. I know them. I use them. Okay. But the point of getting that first pre-approval is not about running my credit and being approved for a loan right then. No. What it's about is having a loan officer do a forensic audit on your financial situation and make recommendations to you about small things that you can do that will have a big impact in terms of the program and the interest rate that you're going to get for your loan, right? So for some examples, I've had clients who have had, hey, I'm right here, I'm only pre-approved for 200, but if we actually go into this and I just take that car loan and I transfer it out of my name into my wife's name, I'll be approved for 275. I've had people that just say, I actually didn't know my credit was that low because I didn't know that my credit company that I was working with was just putting holds on delinquent accounts that were in arrears. They weren't actually fixing them. So I thought that I was at again, 680 credit score, but I'm actually at a 590. I've had that literally happen. And so when we talked with the lender, he's like, look, just do X, Y, and Z over the next 2 months, and this will all go away. It wasn't even hard, and it didn't cost them almost any money. It was just kind of more of a reorganization of where everything looks. Okay, so that's what I would say. So May 15th. So then let's back that up again. 90 days. April 15th, March 15th, February 15th. Now that's the time that you should have your initial pre-approval run. Is that the first time that you should even speak to a realtor? And I would again argue no. You would want to, if you're looking to purchase September 1st, I would probably say you want to talk to that realtor either January 1st or February 1st. You want to talk with the realtor about that getting laid in, because the hardest thing, and this is where we're going to end it, the hardest thing about your search is not the market, it's you. You are going to be the hardest part of your own search, because most people go into their home, their family members' homes, and a handful of friends' homes over their lifetime, right? If I were to tell you that there was a jar of 10,000 differently colored jelly beans and you grabbed out 6, do you think you'd be able to make a fair and accurate assessment about all of the jelly beans as a whole with those 6? No, of course not. It's way too few of a sample size to cast an accurate judgment about the jelly beans as a whole. Are you seeing where I'm going with this? Okay. Swap out jelly bean for house. You're walking into this search having seen your home, your family's homes, and a handful of friends' homes. Then you've gotten on Zillow with all of the good and awful photos of all of those homes with a very unrealistic expectation about these homes. Because guess what? The photos never show the bad stuff. So now you've got an artificially inflated sense of what the homes are on the market because you're not seeing them as they truly exist. We also have only seen 6 of those 10,000 jelly beans. And so the expectations that we bring into this search, I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying they're based on too few inputs. I would have come to the same conclusion that you did if I only had those 6 jelly beans and those 10,000 inputs. And do you guys see my cat in the back here? Misty, we're recording. Sorry, everybody. This is Misty, one of two sisters. Can you stop playing with the paperclip? The point being, and I guess we're wrapping up here because of the cat. When you get in, the expectations that you have are going to shift dramatically. And I think we all know that change over a long period of time is easy than a lot of change in a short period of time. And if you get started like that average person in May, not only do we have to get you pre-approved and hope that everything's good with your financial, not only do we think that your expectations have been rock solid about everything that you thought about homes and going into the homes, like you might get lucky and those things all might line up. But you know what's more likely to happen? You're going to get frustrated about your financial position and you're going to be one bracket below where you could have been had you had a little bit of preparation. You're also going to be judging homes based off those 6 jelly bean homes that you thought were a representation of the overall 10,000, and you're going to be shocked to find that it's not. And then you're going to have to learn all that on the fly while also staring down the barrel of now a timing issue because you've learned that stuff too late, and now it's past May 15th, and now it's past June 15th, and now it's August 7th. You still haven't gotten under contract and you're getting kicked out of your apartment or your parents' house or wherever you're out of on September 1st. And now you're sitting there scratching your head saying, what could I have done differently? Take this as a lesson. Get started 6 months ahead of time. 6 months ahead of when you want to settle in that new house is when you should be speaking with your realtor the first time. I would love to be your realtor. I would love to put you in touch with a realtor who can help you. But at the end of the day, I don't need to represent everyone. I just want to make sure that the people who hear me and hear this have good information about the real estate purchase. Everybody have a great day. I'm looking forward to chatting with you all next week, 46. Let's see what happens with November. At the end of the day, we're all doing real estate. We all need to be prepared for it. The world is the world. And what I say to that is if it gets crazy, get going, getting tough. See y'all. Bye.